How would you react if you saw a stranger visiting your loved one's grave, leaving flowers and tears behind? Today, we unravel a story filled with mystery, love, and heartbreak. A tale that will remind us all of the power of connection and healing. But before we dive into this gripping story, comment below where you're watching from, and if you find this as moving as we did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. At 62, Margaret Thompson had built her life around her memories. The graveyard at Willow Creek had become her second home ever since she lost her beloved husband, George, 2 years ago. Every day, she would walk through the iron gates, carrying a bouquet of white lilies, George's favorite, and sit by his grave, whispering stories of her day. But one quiet afternoon, as the sun began its descent, painting the cemetery in hues of gold and grey, something caught Margaret's eye. A little girl, no older than 8, wearing a faded pink dress, slipped through the gates. Margaret paused, puzzled. The child walked purposefully among the headstones, her small figure almost blending into the rows of granite markers. Margaret watched in silence as the girl approached George's grave. The child knelt, carefully placing a small bouquet of daisies at its base. Then, she began to speak softly, her words carried away by the gentle breeze. Who was this girl? Why was she here? And why George's grave of all places? Margaret's heart raced as she approached the girl. "Hello there, sweetheart," she said gently. The girl jumped, startled, her wide, tear-filled eyes meeting Margaret's. I didn't mean to intrude," the girl stammered, clutching her little bouquet. "I just wanted to say thank you." Margaret frowned in confusion. "Thank you? For what, dear?" The girl hesitated, as if unsure how much to share. "For the kind man who used to visit us at the shelter. He said this was his favorite place." Margaret's breath hitched. A man. George had never mentioned visiting a shelter, let alone spending time with children. But there was something in the girl's earnest expression that tugged at Margaret's heart. That evening, Margaret couldn't shake the encounter from her mind. The girl's words played on a loop, and questions buzzed incessantly in her head. The next day, Margaret decided to visit the local children's shelter. She was greeted by a cheerful volunteer who smiled warmly at the mention of George's name. "Oh, Mr. Thompson," the volunteer exclaimed. "He was such a kind soul. He used to come here every week, reading to the kids and bringing them little gifts. The children adored him, especially Lily, the little girl in the pink dress. He made such a difference in their lives." Margaret was stunned. George had never told her about this part of his life. Why had he kept it a secret? And why had Lily chosen to visit his grave? Margaret returned to the cemetery later that week, and as if by fate, she found Lily there again, sitting quietly by George's grave. This time, Margaret approached her with a softer heart. "Hello again, Lily," she said, kneeling beside the child. "Would you like to tell me more about how you knew my husband?" Lily looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. "He used to call me his little storyteller," she whispered. "He said my stories reminded him of someone he loved very much." Margaret's heart ached as she realized the connection. George had seen in Lily the light and creativity he had always cherished in her. Without hesitation, Margaret took Lily's hand. "Thank you for bringing flowers to George," she said. "It means the world to me." As the weeks passed, Margaret and Lily grew closer. Margaret began volunteering at the shelter, helping Lily and the other children George had cared for so deeply. In their shared grief, they found healing and a sense of purpose. One sunny afternoon, as they planted flowers around George's grave, Lily looked up at Margaret with a smile. "Do you think he can see us?" she asked. Margaret placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder, her own eyes glistening. "I think he's smiling down on us right now, proud as ever." Sometimes the people we love leave behind legacies we never knew existed, legacies that can bring us closer to others and teach us the true meaning of compassion. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need a little light today. And before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the beauty in humanity.